So we are going to show you a simple mastering chain in Ableton with Ableton built-in effects, and this template will be made available. Check the description. Also the track we are using is available. Check the description as well. Let's start. So we're going to try to master this track with the built-in Ableton audio effects. And what do we mean by mastering? We want to balance between the several frequency ranges. For example, we want to balance out the ratio between the bass, mid frequencies and high frequencies. We want to clean out frequencies that are emphasize too much, and we want to increase the general loudness of the track. So we have a mastering chain over here consisting of Ableton audio effects, and let's quickly open it up and maybe close it over here. We start with a equalizer, EQ8, and we have it on mid-side mode over here. As you can see, there's two things we are doing over here. We are cutting out the low frequencies below 102 Hertz over here, as you can see, on the side, in order to make sure our bass signal is in mono, because most of the clubs use mono speaker systems and you don't hear any bass information that is on the side of your panorama on those speakers, so you're losing it anyways. That's why we are cutting it out in the beginning already. So that's how we ensure that everything below 100 Hertz is on mono. And the second thing we are doing over here in the mid, you can see the remainder of what's still left gets a low cut in the middle of cutting out everything below 35 Hertz. So that's the first overall effect that we are applying. Sometimes you want to increase the panorama and stereo effects in your higher frequency ranges, and I've seen people use a chorus for that matter and use it in a high pass mode. So applying a slight chorus in frequencies over 2000 Hertz, for example, and then just like getting the dry wet up a little bit. We don't do this over here, but that's a simple way of achieving that effect with Ableton built-in effects. There are third-party effect plugins that are a lot better for this matter, but you could do it this way. Anyways, I'm leaving it out over here, and I'm moving on to the next element, which is a glue compressor, Ableton glue compressor with the factory preset catch peaks. So what we're trying to do over here is start working on the balance of our track. We want to balance, we want to get out the peaks and have the overall frequency picture look more balanced. So it's pretty harsh in that sense, but it's gluing, like it's helping you glue together in a first stage. So the next thing we want to do is we want to clean out some annoying frequencies that we notice. For example, there seems to be maybe something over here emphasized a little too much compared to the other values, and that's not too much actually. It's not really a big issue over here, but we could work on that. And if this spike would be higher, we could work on that as well maybe. So after that one you can clean up a little bit the remaining peaks, or you can apply this compressor a little harder. So that's just one example of what you could do, you know. And now the next thing we are applying in this chain is a multiband compression, and this one tries to ensure that the balance between frequency ranges in your track gets more evened out, more leveled. If you think about your master in terms of a three-dimensional cube, you want to reach all the corners of that cube. If the cube is your audible space, then you want to make sure you get to all the corners of the audible space. And that's why we are trying to get all the frequency ranges as closely to the edges of the cube as possible, and that's why we have to balance them. So in order to balance the low frequencies compared to the mid frequencies and the high frequencies, we can adjust the attack and release times. Like this is the low end, this is the mids, and this is the high frequencies. And over here, this is simply telling us that our like the change from the low frequencies to the mid frequencies is at 120 hertz. And we are swapping to the high frequencies at 2500. So basically over here, imagine a line over here and another line over here. So that's what we're basically applying those settings on. This one, this region over here, and this region over here. And we are using slower attack times in the low frequencies because we don't want to mess with the with distorting our bass signal, and we are letting a longer release time. And as we move up in the frequency range, as higher frequency elements have shorter overall play times and also shorter attacks, we can also apply shorter attack and release times in our multiband compression settings. This one is now adjusted with the thresholds and with the ratios per track at hand over here. Those settings could be different in other tracks, of course. Very individual concept. So after leveling the several regions of our track, we are going to apply an overall, taking all the signal, compressor to add a little bit of punch. So we are using an attack time of 5 milliseconds and a quite short release time. A moderate ratio. Let's see how it works. And after that, we add a little bit of sustain. So we try to flatten the signal and make it equally, a little bit more equally loud. So we are applying a higher ratio over here and have a longer release time to flatten our signal. And then we are getting towards the end of our mastering chain. We use a so-called final touch EQ, because now we have flattened our mix quite a bit, and like in comparison, the bass maybe compared to the mid frequencies wouldn't be that emphasized anymore, and we can go back, emphasize a little more on it, like bring it up a little bit in the low frequencies around 100 hertz, and maybe emphasize a little bit in the brilliance in the top end. Bring that up with a shelf, for example, or you can also use like the usual forms, and as we're moving to the end. We have a little bit of headroom left now, and because compression in this sense over here was actually also reducing our volume. And now, but we compressed everything together at a lower volume, and now we're getting back and we're using the limiter and giving a lot of gain back because we have headroom left. And we can easily put 10 dB on over here, but when you're using the Ableton built-in limiter, make sure you don't apply it too harsh, because it doesn't have that much nice sound in it actually compared to an L2 by Waves or other limiters. With an L2 by Waves you could push it up a lot further over here and still have a nice sound, but in my opinion this L limiter of Ableton, the built-in one, if you push it through 3 or 4 decibels over here in that area, it starts sounding pretty crappy. So you might want to keep that in mind. Have it around 1, 0 or 1. Should be the way to go in using only Ableton built-in plugins. So I hope you understood a little bit, like of course we are using the spectrum analyzer just for analyzing purposes over here, and that's basically our chain. So we have an EQ low cut, we have a glue compressor catching our peaks, we have a cleaning EQ, you could use it or you can go without it. Then we are applying a little bit of multiband compression. Then we are we are using a punching compression, a little bit of sustaining compression. We are giving final EQ touches, and we are limiting out in the end. Of course, there are several philosophies on mastering, and you could perfectly argue that gluing together will come in the end, or your multiband compressor goes first. There's several philosophies on that, but that's for us that's a pretty interesting way to go with that chain over here. So I suggest you build your own chain, you see how the thresholds work on your track, try to find out several settings and what works best for you, but like using this chain as a first approach. And we are giving away this chain for free, so check the description for that one. And also if you kind of like that track that we are using, we also have an Ableton template for that one. I think it's called Helden's Style or something, like, because it sounds a little bit like Oliver Heldens. You can get that as well, and yeah, I hope to see you next time.